Hello, I'm David Hunt, and my guest today is a man that I've known for quite a few years, Scotty Harrison. Hello, Scotty.
Hi, David.
And now you're a scout, as we can tell,
Yes.
Scout Victoria.
Yes.
When did it all start? 40 years? 40 years a scout?
Yeah, so 40 years ago, I was a 9-year-old boy.
Why did you get involved?
Well, my father was actually my first cub leader.
Ah.
So my parents were divorced at the time, but we couldn't get into cubs locally in Frankston. So my dad was a cub leader in Essendon, and he said, look, come and join my pack. I'll get mum to drive you up after school, and then we'll do a transfer. So for about a year and a half, I was commuting from Frankston after school to Essendon and doing cubs with my dad.
What was that like? You know, it would have been a bit of a bonding thing with your dad, I suppose.
It was really weird because Dad was very clear to me to say, look, while we're at Cubs, you can't call me Dad, you've got to call me Arcala.
Right.
And I'm like, why? And he goes, because that's just the way that it is.
Yeah.
Right? So every time I went to say Dad, like I did it a couple of times, and he goes, no, Arcala. So he was the main leader and my leader, and after about 80 months, I transferred back to Frankston.
Right. Obviously you enjoyed it.
I did.
What was it, you know, like for a kid of that age, you know, like there was a connection with your dad, but what else, you know, like came to the table for you as a cub?
It's just something that's different away from home, it's different away from school, and it's different away from your friends. It's just a really different, special, adventurous world where you do, you know, activities in hall with other kids, or you do activities on the weekends. You might go camping, hiking, and I just quickly became aware of a whole plethora of fantastic, fun stuff that you can do that you wouldn't normally do in any other group.
You would, and you learn a lot.
Absolutely.
How to tie a knot.
Yes.
You've got a few knots.
Although I didn't do this, a friend of mine did this to me.
We'll get back to that one that's running.
But you learn how to, you know, the simple things like learning to tie knots, learning to use a compass, learning to put up a tent.
You see, I don't know how to do any of those.
A lot of people don't.
Yep.
And so over time, as you get older and the complexity of the different activities and skill levels that you can do, you just develop these really fun, you develop life skills in a fun, enjoyable atmosphere and with all your friends and other leaders. So.
And you did make friends?
Yes.
Yeah.
After 40 years, I know quite a number of people.
I'm sure you would.
Yeah.
Know. Yeah.
You do. Some lifelong friends that come and go, and then you do sort of cross paths at different stages of your life, but valuable friends all the same.
And what about school? You know, like, was it a cool thing to go to school and say that I'm a scout at that stage, or were there kids at your school that were part of your scout group?
Really good question. Initially, no, I didn't think it was a cool thing, but I very quickly became aware that there were other kids in my school and obviously other schools in the area that were in scouting, whether it be Cub Scouts or Venturers or whatever age group I was in.
Yep.
And over time you become more relaxed about it because you understand that you're not alone and a lot of your school friends are actually there as well.
So was it classes being daggy? You know, like 2 year school friends when they found out that you were a cub and then a scout?
I guess not a lot of friends knew that I was in scouting.
Why?
Well, it was because for me it was something separate from everything else.
Okay.
So I went through a period of time where I just, you know, I was in my home world or my school world or my scouting world. So, and I would move between them. But over time there was opportunities like show and tell at school, for example. So you would have the ability to take some, you know, paraphernalia or memorabilia, souvenirs or whatever. So.
And what would teachers say? Because a lot of the time they wouldn't have known.
Actually, over time I realised that teachers and my school peers were actually curious and fascinated about what this scouting world was. So over time I became more comfortable to actually share the things that I would do.
You went through 40 years and a leader for 30 of those 40 years. Wow. So, which in a way, those life skills that you were getting were so valuable.
Well, when I first started out being a leader, I was still in my teens. I was actually doing some service in Venturers for my Queen Scout Award, which you can see here. It's a pretty prominent award in the community. It's the pinnacle of the award scheme in the Venture section, which is 15 to 18-year-olds. And I'd finished doing my service badge with my old cub pack that I was in when I was a boy, and I really enjoyed it. And I think the leaders that were there that I was supporting could see that I was enjoying it, and they asked me to actually stay on as a leader. And I said, "Oh, I'm too young. I haven't turned 18 yet." And they said, "Don't worry about it. Just be a youth helper, and when you turn 18, if you want to still be here, do the training and become a leader." So I did, and I stayed. And very quickly after turning 18, I started doing my adult leader training and really enjoyed it. But I remember early on when I was doing my training thinking how green I was, how inexperienced I was, how unknowledgeable I was, and like a sponge just absorbing everything that all of my older adult leader peers were telling me and instructing me.
Do you think that you wouldn't have thought that way if you were just a normal kid going to school and leading a life? It's because you were focusing on those issues within the Scouts that it made you aware that I am so immature, because we are as teenage, late teens and early 20s, and we think we know everything at that age, but of course you don't.
That's right.
And so the awareness that you would have been developing at a younger age.
I think I took heart that I was maybe given an opportunity that maybe other kids my age may not have got. And so I treasured that opportunity to be valued for my age and be, in charge of young kids. And so I relished that opportunity. I think it brought me closer to adults than some of my other peers at the time. Yep. Because I was having a tough time in the schoolyard growing up as a kid.
Right, okay.
Certainly had my fair share of being bullied, which is one of the reasons why I also joined Scouting. But I think as I got older, I was yearning for, connection with older people, more mature people. So some of those leaders created those early opportunities to actually, connect with more like-minded people. So
you've got a rainbow scarf around your neck, which looks fantastic. When did you realise you were gay?
Probably in my mid-20s.
Okay, not until then?
No, I think, about then.
Right. So as in the schoolyard, you weren't being bullied for kids maybe thinking that you were gay?
No, kids were bullying me because I just didn't have the look. I was a short and stocky.
Really? Because you're quite tall.
I am now, but I wasn't then.
Right, okay.
I was a late
developer.
Yeah.
Okay, here you are in your early 20s. The Scouting world was very much not, letting you be a gay person per se, or were they?
Everything was normal on the outside, but I don't think things were normal for me on the inside. I think I did very well at playing normal, if I can use that word. I don't like to use it, but I use it to demonstrate a point. And I just, over maybe a 5-7 year period of time, I could tell that I was different to other guys. And as I got older, I think I got the confidence to actually be true to myself. And I just left Rover Scouts, which was the most senior youth section of the Scout movement. So when you get to 26, you have to leave the movement as a youth member, and you can stay on and be an adult, a leader if you want to, which I already was. So I waited until I'd left Rovers, and then 6 months later I went overseas for a year. I got a round the world ticket and just travelled, and that's when I really allowed myself to be myself. I just thought, well, if I'm away from home, friends, family, work colleagues, everything, I'd have the ability to actually find and discover myself. And a phrase that I grew to like over time was to love myself. I think you need to love yourself for what and who you are before you can allow anyone else to do the same.
Absolutely.
And it wasn't until I'd actually took that year abroad that I realised I could be true to myself.
Did you think that you'd come back and, if you came out within the scouting world, that it would be a problem for you?
Absolutely. absolutely. That was actually a very anxious moment, when I was coming to the end of my 12 months touring around and going home and realising that I was going home to whatever was before I left. I had to tell my girlfriend that it was probably not a good idea that we continue going out.
Your mum?
I told her first, and then I realised that I needed to tell my parents and my brother that I was gay, and I was trying to find ways in which to deal with that. And then after that, I was telling my close friends, but also my Scout friends.
So you were telling them that you're good friends within the Scouting movement before coming out to the Scouting itself?
Absolutely.
I mean, what were they saying to you, your Scout friends?
Well, I had a strategy. So my strategy was to actually leave, because I was at a time where I thought, while I enjoy Scouting and I would like to continue doing it, I was just concerned that if I'm a cub leader and I'm, in charge of 20, 25 cubs, that either cubs or their parents or the people in our Scout group might have issues with having a gay leader. So
that would have been before all of this, like what's going on in the media right now. So
this was 20 years ago. Yeah. And so it was just it was creating a lot of anxiety for me. So I just thought, preserve myself, because I knew who and what I was or wasn't. It was just as easy to leave rather than potentially expose myself to allegations that were not true. So I started my exit strategy at a time when I was very well known and respected within the local Frankston Scouting community. And a couple of my good close friends who I went through Rovers with, they said, come on, what's going on here? I'm like, oh no, I've just got new things in my life. I've been overseas. I've realised that, there's other things I need to do and different directions I need to go in. And they're like, yeah, but Scouting's been a big part of your life, Scott. You really, really enjoy it. So why wouldn't you want to continue? And I'm sort of feeling backed into a corner. And then that's when I said, well, it's complicated. And he said, well, try me. And I said, well, I'm gay. And he's like, right. And I'm like, well, don't you think that's a bit awkward to be, with kids and leaders and whatever? And I'm like, no, not really. He says, you are one of the best leaders that we have in our district, and it would be a shame to see you go. And I think he just started giving me the confidence to stand up and just be myself and just, nothing's changed. It's just that, there's just a different element of me, which is not going to affect the way in which I facilitate the program with youth and leaders in the district. And so Scott became my close, confident and number one supporter initially, and then I found there was two, and then there was three, and as I shared the story and why I was thinking I needed to leave, I quickly became aware that there was a lot of people that were prepared to support me for what and who I was.
How lovely. That was fantastic. So
you build walls, David. It's easy to just build walls and hide behind them, but people help you break them down.
How did you, what happened, that big step to officially tell everyone?
I started telling the people in Scouting that, and my inner world, not just Scouting, but telling everyone, who I am, and then I got to a point where I actually felt I didn't need to say who I was. I just had the confidence to be myself. Yep. And so if I was talking about a partner or a boyfriend or whatever it was, I would just talk about it in normal conversation like anyone would talk about husbands and wives.
And it's the way it should be.
Absolutely. But I didn't realise that initially.
And I think that we're only coming to terms with that right now, is that it's just a normal conversation. It's not, you don't have to say, oh, but I'm gay. You don't have to tell anyone you're gay anymore, really, to be quite honest.
And I think marriage equality has actually been a big part of that.
Absolutely.
I think the young kids growing up now, so within, I sort of say the 10-year-olds, to 15-year-olds of today, so that in another 10 years' time, they'll be adults. And then everyone behind them, it'll become the new norm. So I think within about a 10, 15-year period, we'll just get to a stage within our community where we have young, middle-aged and older people that just go,
it's the way it is.
It's the way it is.
Yep. Was there any negativity within, with parents or with kids?
No.
brilliant.
No. I thought there was going to be.
Yeah.
You prepare for the worst, but absolutely not.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and I think that it all came down to the role I play, the quality of the program that I was delivering, the fun that I had with the kids, the connections I had with parents. Parents could see, you know, the type of person that I was. Yep. I didn't realise that at the time, but I had time to actually think about it. But I had great local scout group and parent support, and obviously people in my district. So,
tell us about the rainbow scarf and a very nice knot. But I believe that you didn't do it.
That's right. This is called the friendship knot. So when you're wearing a scarf, normally, well, actually, you can either wear it just like this with what's called a woggle, or you can just have it tied with this friendship knot. And a lot of people, especially around parts of America and Europe, they quite often use the friendship knot. But I first became aware of the Rainbow Scouts in the UK when they had their Pride March in London every year. They were wearing this as a formation. And so as more people became aware that they were wearing it, other people wanted one as well. And I think different parts of the world organisation of Scout movement became aware of the profile and the acceptance of GLBTI youth and leaders in the greater community, and so people wanted to have one, and I was one of them here in Australia and Victoria wanted to have one, as some of my other friends, and so I ordered them from the UK because we weren't selling them here in Australia initially, so this would have been 5-6 years ago, and for the first time this year when the Scouts Victoria contingent marched in Pride March in Melbourne, we had 260 youth and leaders marching in one.
It was huge.
And they all had the ability to buy one of these.
Wow.
And it was just amazing. It was amazing to see the whole group wearing them, and it was amazing to see the recognition within the community down the street of Fitzroy Street.
And what does that do for you and other gay and lesbians within in scouting?
It makes me feel appreciated, it makes me feel welcome, it makes me feel valued, and it just makes me feel just another member of the community.
When do you wear it? Is it only on occasions like that, and today, of course?
Primarily, you only wear them at Pride March, but when we have other GLBTI events within Scouting, we do have the opportunity to wear them. And I think that will develop over time because we now have, in Victoria, we have a new State Commissioner for Diversity and Inclusion. Yep,
Ro Allen.
No, actually, it's within Scouting. Yeah.
Right.
So it's David Wombat Lyons. He's doing a fantastic job, but his portfolio, as you can appreciate, is quite broad. So it can deal with not just GLBTI. It can deal with faith awareness, cultural awareness, disabilities, mental health, a lot of different areas. So it's great that we have the ability to have a State Commissioner like David that is actually creating a profile for GLBTI leaders and youth in Victoria.
Looking back at that 11-year-old kid, what would you say to you back then?
I actually have thought about that from time to time. I would say have the courage to be yourself. Have the courage to have confidence in your own ability, and love yourself. Appreciate what you're capable of doing, and get out there and do it.
And what about to kids out there now that are at that age that, you know, like, why become a Scout?
Scouting provides the ability to learn so many life skills that sets you up for the future, sets you up for as you go through being a child and a youth member and moving into teenage years and becoming a young adult. It prepares you for whatever it is that you think that you need to learn and grow and experience over time. And I think sometimes getting away from family, getting away from school, having the ability to just be yourself, test yourself, have fun, outdoors, learn new skills, and experience things you may not have experienced otherwise. Scouting is very well regarded within the community, especially, and as you become older and start working and go past university and working, there's a lot of recruiters that look at CVs, and if they can see scouting on your CV and awards that you've got or leadership opportunities that you've experienced, it very much well places you ahead of some of the other people that they may be interviewing.
And you're often at major events. Avalon Air Show, you were there.
That's right.
Helping direct traffic or something, wasn't it? It was boiling hot.
Trying to marshal aircraft, and it was blisteringly hot.
Scotty Harrison, thank you so much for coming on today, and it's wonderful to see that rainbow scarf around your neck.
Always a pleasure, David. Thank you.
I'm David Hunt. I'll see you soon.